They want a state.
Thank you, sir.
Therefore,
Sir, I'll be calling other person now. Sorry, thank you.
I'll also,
Shri Prashant Nandaji. Sorry, Prashant Nandaji, please. Your talk will go on the record now. Honorable Prashant Nandaji.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman, sir. While supporting this bill, I would like to highlight some issues regarding financial relations between center and state, which I think, while Minister will give reply, he or she would clarify it. Sir, my first issue is percentage of central share in SDRMF. As per the recommendation of 14th Finance Commission, the sharing pattern in the SDRF ought to be in the ratio of 90-10 for the center and state respectively. But the Union government, in the explanatory memorandum, accepted the recommendations of 14th Financial Commission with modification that the percentage share of the state will continue to be as before, that is 75-25, and that once GST is in place, the recommendation of 14th Finance Commission on disaster relief would be fully implemented. Accordingly, Government of India released their share in the ratio of 90-10 for the year 2018-19. It was intimated by Government of India that since GST has not been stabilized, the competent authority has decided that during 14th Finance Commission award period, centre's share contribution in State Disaster Response Fund shall remain in the same ratio as it was in 13th Financial Commission. The 15th Finance Commission have also recommended sharing pattern in State Disaster Risk Management Fund at the ratio of 75-25 between central and states for 2020-21 as per the Disaster Risk Index, which is called DRI. Sir, it worked out by the Commission for States. The score of Odisha is 90 out of 100. Will the Minister of Finance allow sharing pattern of 90-10 in SDRMF as a special dispensation for Odisha? So my next is estimation of central share of AIBP projects of realistic level. 8 major and medium irrigation projects earlier funded under Accelerated Irrigation Benefit Scheme have now been identified for completion by a definite time frame under the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. However, Ministry of Water Resources have approved the cost estimate of these projects as on 1st April 2012 with 20% price escalation for determination of the grant component. At 2016 prices, the devised estimates of these 8 projects identified for completion is much higher. If this is taken into account, the state will have to effectively bear about 75% of the revised cost, including the cost of establishment from state share instead of 40% as envisaged under this scheme. Recently, Government of India has approved the cost estimate of these projects of 2016 prices for sanction of loan from long-term irrigation fund to finance the state share. However, the central share has not been revised and kept the 1st April 2012 price with 20% price escalation only. So my third issue is funding requirement for telecom infrastructure for the state of Odisha. Odisha has 10 LWE districts and 10 aspirational districts. The coastal districts of the states are affected by frequent natural calamities like cyclone, flood, and storms. A reliable telecom system is a must for the governance and disaster mitigation for a state like Odisha. As for DOT data, there are 6627 number of uncovered villages even for the basic voice connectivity, 6,627. The private telecom operators do not invest in the rural areas of the state as there is no viable business case for them. Therefore, it is imperative on the government to take lead in building a reliable ecosystem for the delivery of digital services up to the GP level. Sir, my question will be, will the Honourable Minister take steps for provision of rupees 5,650 crores towards covering uncovered villages in LWA affected and aspirational districts of Odisha. Sir, steep increase in state share of centrally sponsored schemes, delinking of 8 centrally sponsored schemes from central support, abolition of normal central assistance, and a steep increase in state share of centrally sponsored schemes has imposed severe financial burden on the state. For example, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana was earlier fully funded by Government of India, but now the share of Government of India has come down to 60, whereas the state has to pay now 40% of it. Such change in sharing pattern of the centrally sponsored schemes has cast a huge additional financial burden on the state, leading to much less resources for the state schemes appropriate to our need. Sir, I'll then come to cess and coals. Center has raised the clean environment cess on coal from rupees 200 to rupees 400 per ton. The state government have requested for renaming these cess as environment and rehabilitation cess, and for earmarking of 60% of cess to coal-bearing states, as they have to bear the cost of environmental degeneration and rehabilitation. This point was raised by Odisha in the GST Council meeting, but the Council has decided that the entire proceeds of the cess would be used for GST compensation
Please
fund,
conclude,
which is
Prashanta
meant
Nanda.
for all states
Your time is over. Please conclude.
in the coal cess. Sir, my question will be, will the Government of India rename the cess as environment and rehabilitation cess and earmark 60% of the cess to coal-bearing states? Lastly, although a number of thermal power plants across India, including those NTPC Limited, have very high power cost and obsolete technology and also have outlived their useful life, DISCOMs are forced to continue with power purchase agreements with the TPPs due to lack of any inbuilt exit clause. This also creates financial hardship for the DISCOMs when they have to comply with the renewable purchase obligation RPO target set by MNRE SERCS.
Please conclude.
Please conclude. States should not be compelled to procure high-cost power from such old thermal power plants. These plants should be retired. It is therefore requested to terminate.
Thank you, Prashanta Nanda. Your time is over. Thank you.
Sir, one line, and it is over.
Please.
It is therefore requested to terminate the PPAs for which consent of the DISCOMs have not been taken to take up R&M to enhance plant life. This will not only reduce the burden on the DISCOMs, but also optimize the use of national resources.
Thank you.
I would love to have clarified.
Thank you.
I would love the Honourable Minister to clarify
Thank you. Thank you.
my questions.
Thank you. Honorable Sri Joganpalli Santosh Kumar ji.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman, sir.